Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen. And in today's episode, we are doing another Q&A. I think I initially said hey, maybe we'll do one a month. And I think it's been two. And that's okay. I've had a ton of other things that I've wanted to make episodes about in the meantime. I do really enjoy making these Q&A episodes, so I do still see them being a fairly regular thing on the podcast, but I don't want it to be like an all Q&A kind of thing. So I haven't quite figured out how often I'm going to set it. So if it's only every other month, then that's fine too. But I do enjoy hearing from you, which is why I love doing Q&A episodes with you guys. And as usual, you guys did not disappoint again. Alhamdulillah. It's so kind of you. So I asked you a few days ago, as I'm sitting and recording the podcast today, if you had any questions for me. And of course, there were quite a few coming in. So we're going to go through some of them today and answer some of them. So instead of continuing to babble on, I'm just going to start with the first one. And the question is, how do you know what to choose? I choose to not study abroad, but it's still in my heart and I want to. So this is a great question. How do you know what thing you should go for, what thing you should choose, what direction to go in? Well, this is one of those infuriatingly simple yet difficult sometimes to implement kind of answers, which is only you really know that, because you have to listen to your intuition. And I don't believe there is such a thing as a wrong answer or a wrong decision to make, because everything will lead you to where you're meant to be if you let Allah guide you. And sometimes the guidance from Allah is really obvious to us and we're like, yeah, absolutely, that's the direction I want to go in. And other times it's so much more subtle and we have to rely a little bit more on ourselves to make certain decisions. And when that happens, we still shouldn't be worried that the wrong thing is going, that we're going to choose the wrong thing or that we're not going to choose the right thing, because ultimately everything that is meant for us will come to us. It's just the only thing that can change, so to speak, is perhaps what the journey to the thing is going to look like, what kind of experiences you're going to take with you, what kind of lessons you will learn, whether it be in this case abroad or in your home country. The lessons that you're meant to learn will still come to you and they will still find you, but the experience of the lesson might look different, and that's the only thing. And if you still have this desire to want to travel abroad and study, there's still time, inshallah. I don't know where you are in your educational journey yet, if you're this is the last chance to study abroad or not for you. But, we can always make a lot of these decisions later on. If you're in your first year of studies or your second year, you still probably have another 1 or 2 years to go. And so you can always decide, it's not for me this year, it'll be for next year. Or even if it's not for next year or it's not while you're studying, you might find that, hey, actually, I'm quite glad that I didn't go, traveling while I was studying. I wanted to do it without having to study as much so that I could see more, enjoy more, whatever it might be. But trust and believe that the things that are meant to come will always come. So there is no such thing as a wrong decision. I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody in the membership at one point in one of the meetings who asked me how I dealt with the stress and anxiety of making decisions and stuff. And my answer was just I don't have any, which sounds kind of ridiculous. I don't have the same kind of stress and anxiety like I used to in the past, because I have fully surrendered it all back to Allah and I live my life to the best of my ability as a faulty human person. I'm not perfect in any way, shape or form, and I don't want it to sound that way, but I'm very consciously deciding to live in tawakkul. So I'm consciously deciding to make decisions and choose things based on the knowledge and the trust and faith that Allah will always catch me if I fall, and that what is meant for me will always find me. What will evade me, what was not meant for me will always evade me. And that Allah is protecting me. He is the greatest protector, and He is protecting me because I am His servant. And as long as I go out and I take chances and do things in good faith with the correct niyyah and intention, and I continuously turn back to Allah for guidance and support, that Allah will give me guidance and support in return, because that is the relationship that I have with Allah, and that is the one that I'm focusing on, and that is how I see Allah. The very popular hadith at this point, Allah is to His servant as His servant thinks He is. For me, I choose to see believe and see a supportive and protective God who wants me to succeed in this dunya, because He wants me to succeed in the akhirah. And for that reason, I go out and I make decisions based off of that faith and knowledge. So making decisions and, doing things and choosing certain things before others it doesn't feel as scary to me anymore. It doesn't feel like I'm making the wrong decision or anything, because I'm constantly living in the knowledge that whatever I choose, what is meant for me will always find me, because Allah has made that available to me, and Allah has decided that that is the right thing for me. So yeah, basically just go out there in good faith, know, trust and believe that Allah supports you and will guide you towards the things that are meant for you, as long as you obviously keep turning to Him for that guidance and asking Him for that clarity and guidance. But don't get too caught up in, what should I choose? What should I choose? Choose one in good faith with the correct intentions, and let Allah do the rest, and trust and believe that Allah's got you. If you fall, He will catch you, and what is meant for you will always find you. What is not meant for you will always keep evading you. And strengthen that relationship with Allah in that sense, if it's not there already, and then work on strengthening your intuition as well. Okay. Next question is, I have crazy resistance to taking action. It's unreal. Any advice, please? Okay, great question. Thank you for it. So there's a couple of things that could be going on for you, and I'm going to talk about both of them, but obviously you're going to have to do a little bit of reflection in your own time and do your homework and figure out what's actually going on, because it could be one over the other, or it could also be a mixture of the two. And then once you kind of know what it is that you're dealing with, it'll be easier for you to understand what steps then to take next to overcome it. So the first thing that it could be sort of something like a mental disorder. As somebody who's quite recently come to terms with the fact that I probably have ADHD. I'm not. Yeah, no. Hi ADHD brain. Right, literally right now as I'm saying that, wanting to interrupt even myself because another thought came to mind. I have some resistance around taking action on some things sometime, but I know and understand now that it is not because I'm being lazy. It's not because I'm avoiding it. It's not because, I don't enjoy the work. There's nothing of that. It is literally me understanding how my brain works and setting tasks up in such a way that it is easier for me to approach it and get it done, rather than setting it up in a way where the ADHD in me feels overwhelmed and can't even handle the task of, just sitting down and starting it. So in saying that to you, maybe it would be a good idea for you to figure out if there's something mentally that's going on for you that could be playing a role here. Because as somebody, outside of the ADHD, I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, panic disorder type anxiety. I'm finally on medication. I have been on medication now for 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. I can't really remember. No, it must be 3 years at this point. But either way, the point is that I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember, literally for as long as I can remember. And with it came a unhealthy dose of depression. They go hand in hand, those two, especially if you have either one of the two for a longer period of time, then they kind of tend to partner up, which is really unfair. But I had both of those things for years, and I'm talking like probably like close to 2 decades before I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And just knowing that I had anxiety and depression, putting a name on it, made it easier for me to deal with it, and made it easier for me to push against it. The same thing now with kind of coming to terms with the fact that I most likely have ADHD. It's easier for me also to come to terms with certain things in my behavior, in the way that I am and in the way that I do things, that in the past I have been judging myself heavily for. And some of these disorders, when you have them, directly influence your ability to take action, to start a project. And if not starting a project, then finishing a project. Or getting distracted or wanting to do other things, even if it's something that you genuinely enjoy. There's so many of the things that I do that I genuinely enjoy, but there's just something in my brain that's like, I'll do it later. Like, I can literally use right now as an example. I've been sitting at home for the last 4 hours, and I knew I had to record this podcast episode today, and I kept pushing it. And there's nothing, literally, the moment I sit down and I press record, I love it. I'm thriving. I love having my podcast. I love the content that I am publishing and putting out there. There's not a single thing about this that I don't like. And yet I still procrastinate heavily in terms of actually sitting down and getting it done. But in the past, I would have judged myself so much, and I would have shamed myself and made myself feel really, really bad about it. Now I'm starting to see some patterns that have been in my life for a very, very long time that could potentially be linked to something that has a name, and gives me a sense of understanding and clarity around what I can do to approach the tasks a little bit easier. And that has been such a godsend to me, because it's literally changed my entire workflow to a point where I feel like I am more productive than I have ever been, because I'm working with the thing that is happening inside me rather than against it. So instead of just doing what everybody else is telling me, this is how you're productive, this is how you have a successful business, this is how you do a lot of stuff, that clearly wasn't working for me, because it was putting a lot of pressure on something that was going on mentally inside of me that just could not keep up, and changed it into something that is more enjoyable for me and more exciting, and makes me want to come to work and do the things that I need to do if and when I have to. And that has really made a huge difference for me. So that would be my first piece of advice to you, is figure out if there's something sort of mental disorder wise. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Where basically it could be going against your levels of productivity. Okay, the next thing that I would advise for you is to, if it's not something like that, or if you feel like that's might be a part of it, but it's not all of it, is what's going on in your mind about the thing that you want to sit down and do. Because a lot of the procrastination or avoiding, I think is the word, avoiding of doing certain things, is sometimes because of the underlying belief that we carry around with us about this thing. So if there's something in your mindset, something in your beliefs, something like as a repetitive thought in your mind that is telling you that this thing is bad, that it's boring, that it's not enjoyable, that you will fail, you're not good enough at it, you're not doing enough, you're not doing it good enough, whatever it might be, there might be some underlying thoughts about the specific thing that you're not taking action towards. That is enough of a subconscious belief sometimes to actually stop us in our tracks. If we believe that the thing we're about to do will cause us injury, will cause us to feel shame, guilt, failure, make us a laughing stock, take too much time, simply not being enjoyable. That could also just be like, I just don't like doing this. I just don't like doing this. So because I have this mindset around certain things, I will have a tendency to avoid that thing as well. But the underlying belief about the thing that you are avoiding to do, whether it be like a big old existential type of belief, or it literally is something like, I just don't like it, I just don't enjoy doing it, and that's why you're avoiding it, that will tell you so much about what is going on as well. And it'll basically help you understand why you're avoiding it, not on a sort of like, oh, it's a disorder, I can't really help it, or I can tips and trick my way out of it. But to change your understanding, sometimes if it's something like literally that you can outsource, then outsource. If it's something like, I really don't like doing my taxes, outsource it, pay your way out of it, right? I don't think that that's what you're talking about specifically, whether it like it's doing your taxes or something, but whether it be something big or small, figure out what's going on in your mind, in your belief system, as you're approaching these things or as you're thinking about these things, and see if your mindset is setting you up for success or for failure. And if they are, generally speaking, setting you up for failure, even if it's something that you enjoy doing, but you are afraid of the outcome or you fear that you're not doing it good enough or whatever, then that is still subconsciously setting you up for failure, because it'll make you want to postpone or avoid this task because you want to avoid said failure, that perceived failure that you're carrying around with you subconsciously. So it's really important to, when we're saying, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't like doing that, or I'm really bad at it, or whatever, where I think I did an episode about it a couple of months ago, about how the words that we speak are really, really powerful, and the reason why we have to be so cautious of how we speak to ourselves, because sometimes we can literally go in and reprogram something in our mind to the effect where we no longer want to do certain things, or at least it becomes that much more difficult for us to sit down and do the thing. And one of the things that we can start to do is think differently about it, work on if it's something to do with business and you're afraid of putting yourself out there with something, or writing the book, or creating the video or podcast or YouTube channel or whatever, then it could be that you need to sit down and really work on your worth, your self-worth, how you perceive yourself to be worthy of that success, or putting yourself out there. If it's something about like, what if I fail? What if nobody's watching? Or all of that good stuff, really sit down and do a lot of work on these things in your mindset. And a good place to start, in fact, if you're recognizing yourself in like, oh, it feels actually more like there's something maybe subconsciously in my mindset that's keeping me stuck here, a good place to start would actually be my online course, Belief Breakthrough, because I take you through each. Oh, who's that ringing me? That's my mum. I'm gonna give her a call back in a minute, inshallah. So one of the things, as I said, you can go and do is my course, Belief Breakthrough, because in that course I take you through step by step and explain and take you through the exercises of how to take something that is no longer helping you and serving you in your mind, and changing it to a better belief that'll actually stick with you. And this is not affirmation work, by the way. Belief Breakthrough is not affirmation work. It is actual work. You need to sit down and look at what's going on the inside. This is generally for anybody out there who's listening, who's like, oh, I don't feel like I have the most positive mindset and whatever. That would be a really good course for you as well, to be able to shift some things around internally to set yourself up for the success you are wanting and wishing for and praying for externally as well. So that would be a good little place for you to start in case you are wondering about that. Okay, next question. Let me see. Is it okay to ask Allah for more information when a dua is not answered the way we want it? And actually, this person sent over a couple of voice memos explaining what was meant here. So basically asking Allah why? Why didn't it come this way? Or why didn't I get it? Or why is the timing not the right one? And so on and so forth. So, and I think a lot of us actually can relate to this, we all have some element of ourselves where when we ask Allah for something, we're like, and Allah hasn't given it to us within the time frame that we would like to receive it by, there is a part of us that goes, but why? But why? And wanting to understand either why it hasn't been given, or why there's a delay on it, or why it looks different when it finally does arrive, why it had to come with certain sacrifices that maybe were a little bit more difficult to give up than you would have liked. A personal example in my world was my divorce. I had a very difficult time understanding why. It's easier, of course, now because I see where my life is today. But there's still times where I'm like, couldn't I have done this and still be married? Like, did I have to go through the divorce? And, there'll be times where my ego wants to come in and kind of like question Allah in a sense, but tell me, like, I want to understand the reasoning. I want to understand the decision making. So I get it. I fully get it. And I see a lot of you have the same kind of inkling as well. And sometimes you'll even ask me like, but why is this not like, I can't speak for Allah, astaghfirullah. That's not what I do. I can't, speak on Allah's behalf, and I can't pretend to have all the answers. But one thing that I do know for certain is that you can ask Allah for anything and everything that you want. Whether it's right or wrong, Allah is not going to judge you for it. So if you come to dua and you ask Allah for more information about the thing, there is nothing wrong with it. But I do have to put in a little caveat here. I do kind of have to come in here and maybe burst a bubble or two, which is Allah is not obliged to give you that answer. Allah is not obliged to tell you why. That is the part of faith that sometimes can be quite difficult. That sometimes we have to just be okay with not knowing, with not having that information, and with just learning and figuring it out as time goes by. And that's not easy all the time, especially when it comes to specifically for a lot of us. I think we can relate to love. When we feel like, oh, but I was praying for this one specific person and then now they're married to somebody else. Why not me? Why couldn't it have been me? Because there's a lot of emotions attached to that specific outcome that we have in our heads. It's not just a question of like, oh, there's a specific bag that I'd like, or a specific house. It's another person. It's like this idea of a life that could have been with another person. And so we put a lot of emotions to it as well, and strong emotions, very, very strong mind altering emotions, right? And sometimes those can be difficult to let go of, which means it can be difficult for us to let go of our expected or imagined outcome. So when we don't get it, or it looks different, we can't always easily align ourselves with that. It can become difficult for us to accept and align ourselves with it. And I see it quite often. I really, really do. And I want you to know and understand that it is, first of all, completely normal. And everybody's going to go through that at least once in their lives, where they're going to be like, but why, Allah? Why? Just tell me why. But I will also say that I haven't met a single person who, after some time, hasn't been able to sort of look back and be like, I didn't get it then, but I get it now. Or while it still hurts, or while, like it's not the brightest moments of my life or the happiest moment or thing that happened to me, I'm still kind of glad that it happened, or I accept that it happened. Like, that time will heal. And it's not that sort of like bitter, sort of like, oh, I will just learn to let it go. It's not that kind of emotion. It is a very settled, faith-fueled acceptance and alignment with Allah's plan. But that is, of course, if you choose that. If you choose to allow that to happen, right? Because you can also do the exact opposite, which is not let go of it and insist upon your thing. And this is where I say, keep trying to play tug of war with Allah. And, you know, well, I mean, you can see if you win that one, but I would highly doubt that you would win a game of tug of war with Allah. If, in fact, all it would do is, you know, you would just keep digging your heels in the ground, and then all of a sudden you'll find that your knees are now in the ground and then your hips, and all of a sudden you're completely buried underground and it's dark and you've lost all faith in Allah, and yet you're holding on to that rope and you are refusing to let go, and it'll literally be the demise of you. But again, you are of course allowed to ask Allah. You can ask Allah whatever you want. You know, why is the universe quiet? I don't know. I feel like somebody's already answered why there's no sound out in space. I couldn't really think of anything. So that's my example. But like, you can ask him anything. You can ask him anything. Why didn't you invent unicorns for this dunya? Like, you can ask him anything. Allah's not going to be upset with you for asking. But again, he might just not give you the answer. Or the answer might just come to you with experience, with lived experience, when Allah's plan reveals itself. That is usually how Allah will give us those answers, you know. There are signs for those who wish to see. He says that throughout the Quran. And so I feel like this is a moment for us to also remember that, yes, we can ask Allah for whatever we want and ask him to give us the correct answers and all of these things, but Allah has also made everything readily available to us. And sometimes it's not about asking him for it, it's about trusting, leaning into that trust, and knowing that eventually you will find that answer, if not in this dunya, then in the akhirah, right? That there will be some type of clarity at some point or another, but also that the more you resist, you know, the decision that Allah has made on your behalf, the harder it'll be for you to find it. So yeah, you can ask Allah, but I would actually kind of, this is my personal opinion, you don't have to agree, I would actually recommend asking Allah for the strength to let it go. I would ask Allah for the patience to be able to wait to see his plan come to fruition. I would ask for those kinds of things, and then I would lean into the tawakkul more than anything. That's kind of what I would do. Instead of wasting my time and energy, I'm saying wasting. I know that that's a big word because you're not wasting anything when you're talking to Allah, but sort of energy wise is what I'm thinking of here. Instead of wasting all of that energy on holding on to the thing, why? I would argue, let it go, because Allah said so. You know, and that's it, because Allah said so. But again, I mean, that's just my take. That's just how I personally do it. If Allah takes away, while sometimes I do want to ask why, and I do want to sort of like throw a little tantrum sometimes. I'm not saying that you want to throw a tantrum, but I, being a very imperfect human person here, I sometimes want to throw a tantrum as well. But I'm really doing my best to lean more into, because Allah said so, and finding ease and comfort in that. And I find that my days get better, and it's easier for me to let go of my expected outcome when I'm ready to give it up for Allah anyway. So yeah, again, nothing wrong with asking Allah for anything. So if you feel like it would benefit you and help you in your journey, then absolutely sit down and ask Allah. But why? But just keep in mind that He is not in a position where He has to give you the answer just because you're asking for it. And sometimes He might give you the answer, but it's not the answer that you want, you know. So just keep it in mind. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's take, because I can see the time now. There's one more question. We'll take this one. Okay, I'm confused between redirection and restriction on blessings. Okay, so this is actually a question that I answered in, was it another Q&A, or was it No, it was in another podcast episode, and I get it. There were a couple of people who wrote and said, I'm a little bit confused, and I get it. It's a confusing thing. In truth, it's one of those things that you will start to recognize the differences the more you experience them. So the more you experience the redirection, you'll know it's a redirection. The more you experience a restriction, you'll know it's a restriction. So it's a question of, you have to live it. You have to. It's a situation by situation. And only you truly will know in that situation. But trying to sort of plan for it and trying to have it figured out going into a situation is going to be very, very difficult. I do want to say, though, also, if you're looking for if you're sitting right now and there's a specific situation and you're trying to figure out if it's one thing or the other, and you need some real practical guidance in your situation right now, whether it's you asking the question or anybody else out there, then, book a one-on-one with me. Let's have a conversation. I can 100%. I'm actually really good at that. That's why I do this job. I'm really good at helping people see the things that they can't see for themselves. So either do that if you feel like most comfortable having a one-on-one and getting into detail and into depth with me about a specific situation. Or if you like a group setting and you're okay with other people being involved and hearing your story and having that sense of community, then join my membership, because you might also be able to get your answer there. I mean, you'll be talking to me as well, so I'll definitely be giving you my opinion and situation, or my take on your situation. So I would say, if you're sitting in a situation, regardless of what it is, and you're like, I'm really kind of feeling stuck right now and I need more specific guidance on this specific situation, then join the membership or book a one-on-one with me. Those are the best ways that I can help you and the best ways that I can support you in whatever situation that you're currently in. But that is absolutely the best solution. And of course, there's a massive price difference here. One is £10 a month. Yes, £10 a month, that's the membership. And another one is £111 for a 1 hour session with me. I did that on purpose, girls. I really did that on purpose, because I would prefer that you join the membership. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want to book a one-on-one, I'd love to sit down and have that kiki with you. And for everybody who's booked in for that one-on-one, it's been absolutely wonderful to get to know you and speak with you and help you out in that way. But I love my community, and I want more people to join it, because we're having so much fun over there, and the little sisterhood that we have created there is just wonderful. So, but yeah, I mean, those, I'm getting a little sidetracked here right now, but ultimately, if you're sitting in a situation, you're like, I've read your book, I've listened to your podcast, but there's this one specific situation where I'm still feeling a little bit stuck. Girlie, the next step is literally to sign up for my membership, my one-on-one coaching, or if the situation that you're in is literally around mindset or marriage, then I've got my 2 courses as well that are available. And my darling, it'll be time for you to invest in that case. All right. That is where I'm going to leave it today. I feel like this episode is long enough. We'll do another Q&A again, hopefully not in 2 months this time, but maybe in a month's time, inshallah. I am going to love you and leave you, and I'm going to call my mum back to just make sure everything is okay. Everything is usually okay. She just likes to say goodnight and I hope you had a good day. I love my mum. Say hi to your mum for me. I mean that, by the way. Don't just sit there and be like, yeah, whatever. No, say hi to your mum for me. And if she's passed on, then send it via a prayer to Allah and say Zara says hi. Which reminds me, when you pray next time, say hi to Allah for me as well. I would say hi to Allah for you as well, inshallah. All right, my darling, I will see you in my next episode. But until then, please don't forget to live in love.